Hey, can you hear us?
Check. I can hear you. Yeah.
Awesome.
I could probably mute. I should probably mute this.
Yeah, if you can mute the
Okay.
video.
Muted the
Uh,
video.
Hello? Can you hear us?
Oh no, I muted the wrong. Got to mute you guys.
Just testing 1, 2, 3.
Can you hear yourself, Danny?
Yep.
Good now?
Yeah.
Everybody good?
Can we hear you, Ronnie?
Hello. Check.
You hear us okay?
I can hear you. Okay.
Oh,
Yes.
fantastic. We pulled this off. We weren't sure. This is like, there's so many firsts right now right here. So anyway, just first of all, like, thanks for taking the time. Thanks for your patience. And like, we're trying to work this out logistically.
Let's see how you're. Can I hear you? Can I get your voice one more time?
Check. 1. Check.
It's a little light.
Hello.
Yeah, it's a little light. Is that just...
Yeah, I can't get them any higher than
okay.
that.
Do you want to go back to the video maybe?
Maybe let's try video because the audio is very.
Check.
Turn it up on your phone, maybe.
Yeah, let's try this. Can you give us a couple more checks there, Ronnie?
Check.
All right. It was
Check. Unique New York.
There you go. Yeah.
So that was my phone volume. I'm such an amateur podcaster. So I think we're good.
Yes.
Joe's checking the controls here.
All right. One more time, everybody. Danny, give me.
Unique, ultra unique.
All right. Ronnie.
Unique Ultra, unique New York.
Awesome. This is awesome.
So I was just saying,
right.
Thanks again. Like, awesome to see you. And, it's kind of crazy. Like, we did that article in like 2015. I called you. He was at Logan Airport.
Oh, wow.
And I just got his number through Ian Dilley, who did the bicycling cover story. Spent that weekend with you. And long story short, I called you up and I was like, could you do an interview right now? And you were like, sure, you got like 45 minutes, go.
Basically.
And we cranked it out and I was able to put an online article. Ian did that cool feature and you were on the cover, which I don't know if it was the first or whatever, but it was definitely like a very interesting cover that you wouldn't necessarily see on like bicycling normally. I had worked at actually bicycling before that. I was their online editor for nearly a couple of years. So anyway, to fast forward, I'm just like, we got this podcast now, Joe and I, and we're just, well, it's another story we'll go into right now, but we just wanted to start doing some podcasting. And we started out, a little bit slow. We're like trying to feel our way through it, make sure we got everything dialed and all that kind of stuff. And then we're like, all right, I think we're ready to start having guests because the idea was to have guests like pretty regularly. So I'm like, Joe, I think I got a guy. I think I got.
Yeah, boy, did he pick a guy, Ronnie?
So anyway, that's why we're here. That's kind of a quick version of what's been up. But that article I put up, which was not long after Ian did his, that was in 2015, I think, the spring maybe.
Yeah.
So that's 7 years ago ish. So time has flown by.
So Ronnie, if my calculations are right, you were about 15 or so when he did that article on you,
correct.
right?
Yes.
Right?
Yep. Your math is correct.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even have to check it. That's perfect.
Yeah.
15. Yeah. And I'm still, even though 7 years has passed, I've aged about 7. I'm about 17 now.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm actually, 21 just seems too old these days.
Portrait of Dorian Gray. I love it. But just to be clear about everything here. So, Joe and I have been friends for a super long time. We both live in the Chicago area. I'm originally from here, as well as Joe.
I could tell by the way you said Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah. He's more Chicago than me.
I did live away for quite a while, and I only mentioned that because when I came back, like I got to know Joe again, and Joe has a bike shop on the south side, and we just started getting in touch a little bit more again, and we worked at bike shops together back in the day, and next thing you know, like Joe and I are chatting, and one day he's like, Danny, he's like, I got something I want to talk to you about. I have an idea. And sure enough, he's like, I want to start a podcast. So that's what we're doing. That's why we're here. And yeah, it's kind of cycling related, but it doesn't have to be. It could be about anything. The kind of conceit for it was like so many cool conversations happen in bike shops, many of which have nothing to do with bikes or cycling. And so that's kind of like our basis here. And so, like I said, we wanted to get some guests on, and
you're it, man. You are the first one. And what an honor. And what an honor. What an honor. I'm actually, I'm very excited to meet you because I didn't know shit about you before this. I had no idea who you were, which is great.
Because to get the newsletter from my mom. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's nice. It's like discovering something new. It's like a new flavor of of ice cream or something that just blows your mind at this age.
Triple chocolate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got to say, there's plenty of you're out there. Once you start looking, boy, you are everywhere.
I'm a bit loose. I'm a bit loose. Yeah.
You are a little loose. You're a little loose. You're a little loose. And I got to say, oh man, this is exactly what I need. Another guy with a beard and long hair riding a bike. It's exactly. I'm like, there's a million of those guys riding through the neighborhood here today, right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
But there's only one Ronnie.
Yeah. Well, that's what I learned when I started digging a little bit.
Yeah.
And I watched a few videos of yours and a couple of in-depth. I think the Pathless pedaled. That was a nice sit down there. It was. I like that guy. Takes his time and listens to you and talks to you, and it's not. Right. He asks some good questions, and what I learned from that interview is that I think you and I are similar in age, 17, 18.
17, 18, yeah.
Yeah, we're right around there. And you cite John Tomac and Missy Giove as kind of, people that you looked up to, and the piranha around the neck. Missy Giove, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. That was great. Oh, the Yeti days and all of that. So that instantly
I wonder if that would ever rehydrate from sweat, like when she's riding or something,
right? Like screw a Cliff Bar, right? Like the ultimate.
Yeah, right. Just gnaw on some dried fish.
Yeah, I don't think you can get away with that these days, right? Riding around with a piranha around your neck. We all thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was very cool.
She'd have PETA would be out there these days.
Yeah, 1994. That was it.
That was it, wasn't it? It was enough to impress us. We didn't have internet.
Yeah, certainly. That was enough to get you a Reebok sponsorship. Yeah,
that's right.
Do you remember those Reebok ads with her?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was very cool. And John Tomac was is another. So you started in mountain bike. It was really mountain biking was your thing.
Right? Yeah. Mountain biking was my thing. It was.
And out east,
impossible to stay away from. Yeah, it wasn't. It was like out east, it was huge, but I guess it wasn't. We had a pretty good cross country race series here in Connecticut, but I didn't have anybody. I just picked up a mountain bike action magazine in '92 at CVS. While my mom was checking out, and I opened it up and started, and I bought it, and from there I was just like, oh, what is this? And I got really into I think the actual mechanics of the bicycles, just how much you could accessorize and things like that, and all the anodized purple stuff. And,
is that true? Was that kind of the start of it? Really?
That was the start for me. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool! I never knew that.
Yeah, and just devoured that magazine. Of course, subscribed, and it wasn't until maybe 4-5 years later that I actually met other mountain bikers who were, of course, 20 years older than me or so. And so they just kind of brought me all over the state racing and doing all this other stuff. And they hazed me a lot, of course, but I worked at the shop with them, and, they do as they do.
You have some bike shop experience. So you worked at a bike shop for a while.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Yeah. From about 94 to 2002.
Oh, wow. 8 years.
Yeah.
You looking for a job, man? It's hard to find people who work in a bike
Joe
shop.
needs a wrench. We're not kidding. That's why it's funny. Very hard to find people.
I may be one of the few remaining mechanics with knowledge of front derailleurs. If you're needing something like that.
Yeah, man, all mechanical. I'm like, Danny buys electric bikes because he can't adjust derailleurs.
That's right. That's right.
An electric bike.
Typical.
I'm all thumbs. All thumbs.
Are you hip to the acoustic bike? The people calling mechanical bikes acoustic now.
Acoustic.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's like saying analog, but acoustic is even like cooler.
I like acoustic better. That's
there you
nice.
go.
Yeah.
You got to bring it in now to the gram and you start using it.
Yeah, acoustic bikes.
Acoustic bikes. Yeah, I've heard that.
I only ride Stradivariuses. So
there you go.
Ooh, very nice. Yeah. Before we get like super into stuff, and again, thanks so much for taking the time. I don't want to rehash everything. People, probably if folks are so cool and generous to come and hang out and listen to what we're talking about here today, that's amazing. I imagine a lot of people kind of know what's up with what you've been doing. And it's pretty easy to find out through your Instagram and YouTube and things like that. But I did want to just give a little bit of context for like people who maybe haven't heard of you, and shame on them.
Shame.
But first of all, and I know you've been asked this a lot, so I'll just be quick about it. But what kind of name do you prefer? Because you have aliases, you have pseudonyms, pen names, what have you. You're kind of well known as Ultra Romance, but which I think it's genius. These names you come up with, I really do. But what do you kind of like for our context right here? Like what would we call you? Or
you could call me Ronnie Romance.
Ronnie Romance. I love it. Okay, yeah. Ronnie Romance. So just again, just a little bit of context. So Ian Dilley, a friend, someone I've worked with, I worked with him at bicycling. He's with Flow Bikes right now, I believe still. And
just got let off from Flow Bikes.
Did he?
Last year.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to hear that. I didn't know that. So he's down.
He's doing well though, freelancing. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So he's down in Austin. Anyway, he did this weekend with you for a feature story for Bicycling Magazine, which is a very, well-read bike magazine, of course. And which, one maybe could find at the CVS, some kid just like you back in the day, right?
Yeah, that was the trip. Yeah.
He spent like a weekend with you or however many days it was, and basically just like hung out and you guys like camped and you biked and you did all this kind of stuff. And I remember, I was a subscriber, so I saw the story. I was like, wow, this is so cool. And who is this guy? I'd never heard of you. And what I did is I just wanted to go a little bit deeper and kind of learn more about you. Cause I was writing some articles about cycling and some personalities and whatnot. And so, like I said, I just happened to catch you at the airport and you had some downtime before your flight, whatever. And I think you were going west to start your like leg of like bike touring and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was just a magical moment and, got a lot of good quotes from you, and it was cool talking to you and learning about your philosophy and like, you have like interesting educational experience and you worked, I think on your dad's boat, correct me if I'm wrong. So I did this article and I'm just going to mention it cause I think it's relevant. Like the article kind of blew up, like it kind of blew up the internet a little bit.
Yeah.
And so this was at Business Insider when I was working there, and I did this story and it was,
which I had never heard of. I had never heard of Business Insider. I had no idea what that call was about or anything. I just remember getting driven to the airport and getting a text message from Ian saying that he wanted me to talk to you.
And fair enough. It's so funny. And so this article kind of blows up. So we had those big boards that like Gawker and these other places started using, which is like the big board as they kind of called it. And it was just a list of the top articles, getting read the most on the website. And it kind of changes all day, up and down. But it'll show like the top 10 or 20. And the story I did with you, I set it live, we published it. And then within a couple hours, it was getting a little bit of heat. And there's actually a heat meter. It's kind of cool. And all of a sudden, the thing just blows up. It goes to the top. And it's like at any time during that 24-hour, maybe it was 48-hour period, it was either the most read story or the top 3. And, it's funny because a lot of the other stories were like hard-hitting like business stories, and there's probably some politics and what have you. I have a screenshot of the big board somewhere in my like 8 trillion screenshots folder. I tried to find it, I couldn't quite find it, but I think I will. But the point is, like, this story kind of blew up, and I think, you know, Ian's piece was amazing, and it was definitely the original part of all this. But I thought it was kind of cool because I just got you to elaborate a little bit on, like, you know, your kind of philosophy, your some of your education. You talked a lot about work and like our modern perception of work, and we talked about stress and also having fun and this importance, this idea of having fun is like really important. And so that story kind of blew up. And then I remember like other sites were writing about that story too, like the Mail Online, which isn't a site I really read, but it's like a huge site in the UK. And like they did like a version off my story. It just kind of went like viral a little bit. And so that's how we kind of met, so to speak. And then you were already doing this thing. And so like half the year you were working in New England on a lobster boat. Was that it?
Striped bass and bluefish.
Oh, okay. There you go. Fishing boat.
Yeah.
And then, so this was the framing of the article. And the other half of the year, the other 6 months, you know, you were basically riding your bike and you were just kind of sleeping under the stars and having a grand old time. And it was just kind of captivating. And I think that's why people were kind of reading and sharing it and whatnot. So that was kind of like the origin. And ever since then, I followed you on like Instagram, and I see like you have these like some deals. Like I know you had the Specialized thing for a while, and we could talk about that. But then you've done some of your own like kind of bike videos, which I think are just so hilarious. They're so well done. So kudos for that. So that's just kind of the context. So I don't know. Can you just bring us up to speed a little bit? Like what's changed for you since then? Because I wouldn't say you were unknown, but I think a lot more people know you now.
For sure.
Can you just kind of tell us, like, riff a little bit, like what's been kind of going on since then?
That was an interesting moment. I wonder if things like that even happen anymore, you know, where you could have like an article just boost that high. And then, that was a time that was much, to answer your question directly, things are a lot different for me now. And those times in particular, I didn't have a phone. I just had an iPod Touch. And so after you interviewed me, I went away for 7 days and didn't have any I had to be near Wi-Fi. I had to like go to like a Starbucks or something and, you know, fill up a cup with water and sit there and use the Wi-Fi. And so I got back from that bike trip and opened up my phone, and I remember like opening up Instagram or something, and it was like, I think I started, like, last time I had checked, I had like 10,000 followers or something. And it was like something I can't even imagine. Like, I wish we had like a graphic to show people. It was just, you look at your phone and it was just like you could watch the numbers on the follower count just going up. Like, you just refresh it, another 100, refresh it, another 100, refresh it, another 100. I was like, what is going on here?
You're a celebrity.
What did I do?
Bigger than Beyonce.
Yeah, right. Because I remember after that Bicycling Magazine article, I was like, oh, it's so cool to be like on the cover of Bicycling Magazine, of course, like from the perspective of that 12-year-old that was at CVS. But I mean, whatever 7 years ago was, I'm not great with math, but what was that, 2013 or 15, as we were saying, 2015. Yeah. Like, how relevant is print? I think out of that Bicycling Magazine article, I think I picked up like 100 Instagram followers or something, you know, and then it just blew over and you never heard anything about it again. So I was like, oh, that was cool, but I guess that's that.
Well, you know, and I have to say, I think a big part of it was, and it speaks to, like, I don't know how viral, you know, things go viral and digital and all this, but what I did for that article is you had this beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous photography, which is something I actually want to talk to you about. But you know, and obviously you can just take the embed and you can put it in your article, which is what I did. So all the photography there, and I remember like, can I have your permission? And you were like, cool, whatever. You're like, that's fine. Like you didn't think much about it. So I embedded all these. I kind of went through and I cherry picked and it was hard because you have such great photography, but I kind of just cherry picked stuff that would kind of support the edit. And so I think that was maybe part of it too, because people just see it's like, oh, it's an Instagram based kind of thing almost, and they got to it. But anyway, I didn't want to interrupt you. So
No.
That was cool.
That was wild. That was really cool. It was really cool. And it was just that was a pretty exciting time. After that, things really started actually taking off for me. And not that I don't particularly think I was chasing anything like that. It was kind of just whatever happens. I was pretty content living my life the way it was. And so, but I never liked working on the boat. It was just a means to an end. And once I realized I could start, I think did a few trips, and shortly thereafter I started. I think the first thing that I sold, I opened up like a big cartel account or something and online little web store, and sold some T-shirts that we had designed. And like they sold out in 5 minutes.
Oh my god!
And you're like, oh, wow, I could start making money doing this.
That was easy.
That was a lot easier than filleting 100 fish in 100-degree weather on the back of
and
the boat.
Maybe smell better too.
Yeah,
it smells a lot better. Yeah. And so I started, kind of like distancing myself gradually from working on the boat. And I remember my dad would be like, I was like the only first mate. He'd be like, JB, I need you to work tomorrow and the rest of the week and the week after. I'm like, Dad, I'm printing T-shirts. I'm selling these T-shirts. They're hot.
I'm busy. I'm an internet sensation.
You don't know about that?
Oh my God.
It's pretty remarkable.
I mean, you can't
pretty
write
remarkable
this.
guy right now.
Yeah.
This is amazing. It's
Then you had to explain what it was that you were doing. Right?
Precisely. He's like, what?
He's like, let me get this straight.
People are paying you for this.
Yeah. Paying you for these T-shirts. It looks like you just smeared like a shit stain on a T-shirt. Yes.
Maybe it was.
They liked it. It was quirky.
That was the limited edition.
I want a piece of me. That's
right. The limited edition versions.
So started doing that, and I want to say that was maybe a year after that. I had that opportunity with Specialized, which was really cool. Also, here I was. I spent most of my teens and early 20s racing and wanting to be paid to be a professional racer, and like my mountain bike heroes. And of course, mountain biking went to the wayside in the 2000s, and road cycling became the way to make money. So I jumped on the road racing bandwagon and tried my hand at that. And it's so much damn work. You train in 20, 25 hours a week.
Yeah.
And to race a Cat 3, Cat 2 race,
only to crash.
Only to crash.
But can you
that? But we looked good.
Yeah. Would you mind just telling us briefly? Because I actually don't think I really know what was the Specialized deal. I mean, everybody knows Specialized, one of the biggest bike companies based out in California, and especially well known for racing and performance oriented bikes. But what was it? What kind of connection there? Because you're doing this cool thing, and then there's corporation, and just can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think the corporate side of me was a bit of a stretch for folks, but I decided I was just gonna. After the first year they offered it, I declined it, and then the second year, I had a few more friends on board. I'd done a few trips with Eric Nolan, who was working, a Swedish guy who was working with Specialized, still is, and it's one of the few employees that doesn't turn over after a year there.
They've had some turnover. I know a couple of folks. Yeah.
But his bike touring was his passion, and he wanted to bring. They had enlisted him to kind of envision this new category for Specialized. The adventure category. And he designed that bike, the AWOL, the Specialized AWOL, which was a steel steel touring bike. Not a terrible bike, not a great bike either, but it's still specialized. There's designed within those parameters. It had to still look futuristic and everything, And so I remember, having that conversation with them while I was filleting fish on the boat. I had that's a true story. And I was like, well,
I hope your biographer is getting all of this. This is good.
I'm like, well, this could be cool, and again, it was that, I think just that, the idea that you could train so hard and work so hard to be a professional cyclist in the athletic capacity. And here I was about to get paid to go camping, essentially, and you're like, what is that? Like I was chasing the wrong.
Joe, we got to get on that.
Well, we're working on it. That's why we're here. This is why we're here.
I'm getting paid to smoke weed and go camping.
Yes. I'm taking notes. I love this.
That's fantastic.
So, there's only like when you're weighing, when the pros and cons, you're weighing the pros and cons in your head, and there really isn't anything. You can't really trump that. You're just like, okay, that's I'm going to do this. and so, right away it was like off to the races. Like they sent out all this shit, like more gear than I had ever seen in one place, and in my size, and which is rather large. And he had custom painted one of the AWOLs for me with like all this like black metal, like crackle paint and stuff. And Eric's also a metal fan. And so, yeah, nice. So he got to really go wild with that. And it was essentially like anything you want from the Specialized catalog, just ask and they'll send it. And on top of that, they pay a salary. And so, it was that first year, it was a really good deal. But at the same time, like the structure of the program was also kind of like crumbling. The guy who was the head of the adventure program was also head of like the road program, and the road was kind of like still tugging at him. I don't think they were getting the sales they were looking for with the AWOL. And then the release after that, the Sequoia, which was like their, kind of like essentially what all the NABS bikes looked like. Just a steel gravel bike with a carbon fork, which is, I guess, kind of was revolutionary then, but it's every bike.
yeah, exactly.
And so, that stuff never really sold much. And as we were telling before, with the turnover at Specialized, it's insane. I would have a new contact seemingly every 6 months. And it was just like they don't even care about us. Like we were sending them the photos, send all the deliverables and everything. They weren't asking much from us. It was they asked basically for nothing from us. And you send them all the stuff and you don't hear anything, and you're hoping, you're like, okay, the money's still coming in. I haven't talked to anybody in months.
Wow.
They kept paying. And there was one particular, I think I did the program for 3 years. And I think like the last year they didn't pay us. Like it was whoever was head of the adventure program had resigned. They had hired someone else on, and they fired him midway through the year. And we didn't get paid at all. And they sent us bikes and everything, but we didn't get paid. And the paying was supposed to pay for us to do trips and take photos of the trips and stuff for content for their site and whatnot. And this is just how the corporate world works, where we got all the way to January without getting paid. So we didn't give them any content or anything. But then it's not January, all the way to end of December. But then like the day before the end of the year, they send us the full salary, like in one lump sum.
Maybe
you're
tax
like, well, you didn't
related
get it. You paid us for nothing.
Yeah. Oh, that's so wild.
So,
I didn't know anything about that. I do know some folks who've worked at Specialized, and I think I know the current head of road performance, but I obviously every place has turnover, but it does seem like they've had a relatively high turnover over there. So it's interesting.
I noticed they make it work somehow, I guess.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, there was.
And I know Mike Sinyard, the CEO, just retired.
They brought in a guy from Dyson.
That's right.
No kidding.
Those
are all the Dyson memes I'm seeing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like a week ago. I think that was just like a week ago. Yeah,
that tells you something about the bike business.
I'm glad we're having this
What
conversation.
a topical podcast.
Yes.
We're so
I
in
was
touch.
lost with that. Okay, everything's making sense now.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't see a lot of independent vacuum cleaner stores out there anymore.
Well,
so.
my girlfriend has a Dyson. She loves it, and it's a pretty damn good vacuum.
Well, it's a good vacuum.
But I'm sure there's a heck of a crossover into bicycles.
Thanks for listening to the Bike Shop Society podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with us, email us at mail@bikeshopsociety.com. If you're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you can look us up at Bike Shop Society. That's it. Get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. Now, back to the show. Goodbye.
With the Specialized deal, and maybe you can't talk about it, and if not, that's cool. But like, did they, in practical terms, were they like, you need to post X number of things on your gram and mention us, or was there what was kind of the deal for that?
Yeah, there was some loose language with that. It was really like I don't know if it was to attract me initially. It was just it was a very laid back program for a corporate entity like Specialized. It was not what I had expected, which was fine. I'm totally laid back myself, so that was great. And so it was just do like post photos of the bikes, take the bikes on trips, make sure that you're not on any other major brand's bike, and it was just I think they wanted us to hashtag like what the heck was that hashtag?
Something called? Speed. Speed is.
It wasn't speed. It was terrible. I didn't do it.
Okay. Was it just for you?
It was for everybody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I didn't do it.
I'm drawing a blank now. But were you ever tempted to jump on a Trek or a Cannondale and just be like,
Yeah.
Not while he was getting paid.
I mean, I pushed the envelope any way I could. I mean, I around that same time, I met Matt from Crust Bikes. If the listeners are familiar with that brand,
yes.
I met Matt from Crust Bikes, and he was just starting Crust Bikes, and he had come down to the boat. He's from Australia, but was traveling the country. This is in 2015. Also, was traveling the country with his like first prototype of his Taiwanese bike, which was just like a cool touring bike, something that Specialized wishes they could do. And so he showed up at the boat. He he was riding cross country, rode the length of Long Island, and took the ferry across from like Montauk over to New London, close to where I live. And we started designing bikes right away together, and started doing products right away, handlebars and things like that.
That's
a signature frame, the Romancer.
That's cool. Is this still ongoing, this thing? Okay.
It is.
Very cool. Very cool.
And so, in the middle of all this Specialized stuff, I was still kind of doing my more acoustic, my acoustic projects.
There you go, Joe.
Very cool.
This is going viral.
We're starting to think.
Yeah, so that's it. And so they didn't seem to mind. They didn't mind anything with that. So that was cool. And I also started conversations with Swift Industries around that time of designing my own bag. Which we still produce now. That was really the big moment for me, was starting that bag with Swift, and so I was able to kind of advertise that bag along with anything else that I was doing with the Specialized shots, and then they would get reposted on Specialized stuff, and and so it was kind of like this cool, like, oh yeah, you're hooked into like this like corporate bike, but. Check this out. You go one layer beyond that.
Yeah.
So I like to think that was my.
And so I noticed the Specialized that you were riding, but you had some old school parts on that bike. That's not a stock bike that you're riding.
No, I am allergic to outboard bearings in the bottom bracket first and foremost.
Yep.
And it's a terrible allergy. It's break out in hives. Yeah. So that's always the first thing I change on every bike: square taper right away.
Square taper and loose balls, or do you use a ring?
Yeah, I'll do the loose balls on some nicer bikes, but not on a bike like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So just a cartridge bearing, just standard square taper bottom bracket, and then I'll put on I prefer a XTR M950. rear derailleurs. Those are my favorites. So I always put those dark gray ones on, and friction shifting. That's the first things I always change.
I didn't know bar end shifters on that, or
yeah.
Nice. What's the bar end shifter that you're using? What are you using on that?
I think on that one I just had a Shimano Dura-Ace. I think on that one.
Nice.
Yeah. But on a lot of them I like those Suntour Barcons. The Suntour, like I think I'm back with, like, there's some really nicer ones being made today that Rivendell makes, actually, that have a nice shape, just like those old Suntour thummies that have that band clamp on.
But I'm sure you have I'm sure you have a little stash of those new old stock laying around somewhere.
Oh yeah. I've invested.
Like, that shows that you're a bike guy and a bike shop guy, because you have redundancy.
I'm comfortable with 1994. I'm very comfortable with 1994, and all of my bikes reflect that. Yeah.
Oh, very good.
It was a great year for me. I know that for sure.
94 was great. The 90s were great for bikes. I mean, the 90s were fantastic. Some of that stuff is still, I mean, that old XT and XTR stuff, it just works great. And why not geek out? We're bike shop people.
Yeah, I rode Dura-Ace and I had Ultegra, I think. Definitely Dura-Ace, but I mean, I sold the bike eventually, but I had that bike for 20 years, and the Dura-Ace, I replaced maybe the cables a couple of times, but it was flawless, and it felt beautiful in your hand.
That's how bikes were. You say this about everything, but that's how bikes were. They were made to last. So you buy the nice stuff, and you'd have it for a decade.
And there was no such thing as a cheap mountain bike in the early 90s. They were all, I mean, they were nice. They were all pretty nice bikes. Like, you couldn't find, they were designed to be mountain bikes, to be ridden in the dirt and to be ridden hard. And so you didn't really have, some of those original mountain bikes were like almost $1,000 back in those days. I have some of the ads.
True. Yeah.
Just for inflation, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
That was a lot of money. Yeah.
Think about that.
What I think is really cool is you're not just like some dude who's like out there, I don't know, just you're not just bumming around. Like, bikes, and you have an entrepreneurial spirit as well, I think. You've had some deals. You're clearly, like, you have some business acumen, without sounding too serious about it. But like you seem to have a very good sense, obviously, of branding and all these kinds of things.
And I got to interrupt here, because that's what really excited me about the interview, because until I got to know you a little bit, when Danny brought the idea up, I saw a picture or two, and there's a lot of people kind of copying your look out there, let's say.
Right. You're like, I just saw that guy right by a second ago.
Yeah, I got 10 customers just like that,
I know that guy.
Yeah, I know that. I know a dozen of those guys, and they're fun for a little bit, and then then what do we do? After we talk about what kind of bowl he has, it's like, okay, what else?
All right, what do you wax your mustache?
Yeah. Where do you you stash it in the end of the bar, or in where do you keep it? Where do you keep it on the bike, right? When I realized you're much deeper, you're much more than that, and that you get it, and that you understand what this is what all of this is about. That really got me. That really interested me, because again, you're like I said, we're the same age. And I see a lot of the kids that are wanting to do what you're doing, but you're doing it, and you're a guy my age, and it's like you're working with what we got these days.
That's it,
right? This is what we got. All right, so
this is what it is.
This is what it is.
So nothing to hide here.
Yeah, let's make it work. I mean, if the kids could do it, let's do. Why don't I take advantage of this? And I know that's kind of why I'm here with Danny, is that like, well, if this is what the kids want, let's give them what they want. Let's try and make some money off of it. Because God damn it, I've been around this business for a long time without making any money. All of a sudden we're cool, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, that was it. That was the old adage that, you'll never make money in the bike industry. And that was the,
and we did it. You know what? And we did it. We did it for years. For fucking years. We've been doing this forever. And it's like I'm still like sweeping the bike shop, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong, Ronnie? Tell me, what am I? And so you've become a hero of mine.
You need the Ronnie starter pack.
You are a hero of mine.
You need the Ronnie starter pack.
I've got the ponytail. Come on, man.
I can see some nice hair. The hair is very
Can you
nice.
send us your slide presentation? Like, we need the Ronnie starter pack. We need the.
Oh no!
You got to leave the bike shop in 2001.
Ronnie,
that's your first.
Just
mistake.
for you. I'm gonna let it down.
Now we're talking.
I'm gonna let it down just for you.
I would, but you know.
COVID hair, or did you have long hair before COVID?
No. I've had it since I was 17. Right. Since Lauren Fignon. Remember Lauren Fignon?
Oh, yeah. Who doesn't remember?
Oh, come
you have
on.
A little more on top than
a little bit more. But if you remember the old 7-Eleven team and Lauren Fignon, like back in the late
little
80s.
Glasses.
Oh,
yeah.
He was
cool.
They had those little rat tails. That they were sporting for a couple of years there. And
his rat tail was very thin.
It was
very thin. But he wore it with pride. And I think that's all that matters. It's just, you could pull off anything if you have that much. I mean, of course, if you're French, first off, that helps.
And those
a lot of pride in that thin ponytail and those glasses.
Well,
and the turtleneck. He always wore a turtleneck when he was off the bike.
Yeah.
Very studious.
Oh, yeah. Inspired me. Yeah, he looked like somebody from Tour de France.
Oh, Kraftwerk.
Kraftwerk.
Yeah.
But no, you've always. I feel like you're at that. I hate this phrase, but people say like the intersection. Like, bikes. You have an entrepreneurial spirit. You know the bike industry, but you also know like social and like you know how to like kind of brand things. I hate using that word, but you know what I mean. Like you're able to like package things and like so
I think we're all the last generation that are gonna wince at these terms. I think.
Yes, I feel dumb saying them. I'm not a business.
I know,
but like whatever it is, you've been able to like
whatever it is. Yeah,
you've made it all work, and so kudos to you. I in that way, I dare say you're unique because I can't think of someone who's kind of pulled it off, and so kudos to you.
Yeah, and you straddle that world from the analog into the digital age, right? And that was kind of that that, and now you know this, and you're it's trying to combine those two worlds. Like right now, everything old is new again.
Precisely.
Steel bikes. Oh my God, a steel bike.
That.
It's like touring bikes. It's like now touring bikes are
I'm
cool.
writing on that because you probably too. You have memory of when that stuff was current.
Yeah,
and I loved and that was my that was my era. Like that was
absolutely.
People say nostalgia is it's a powerful emotion. I think more than ever, it's very, very powerful right now. We're all remembering the 90s because it was such a different time, and we're like, you've just everybody wants to go back to that simpler era. But for me, the bicycles in the 90s, like that whole culture of reading those mountain bike action magazines, seeing the cool, like how many small component manufacturers there were in this country, and how there was so many ideas being shared, and how the bikes were so unique, and how you would buy a bike and your social clout within your like riding group would be based upon like, is this purple? Is this purple?
So much purple.
That's right. Or green, or orange, or
like all the cool ways to customize your bike to make it your own, and for me, I'll death before riding anything stock, and so, and I was like that back then too. It's just like, there's nothing more uncool than riding stock shit.
Absolutely, man.
And so, and I think that for people getting into bikes too, like when you make a bike your own, like you're going to keep riding that bike. Like you become a cyclist. Like that's how you do it. And like if somebody were to just bring over, like it could be the most beautiful, like, tomorrow we're going to go on the most beautiful ride in the world. This could be like scientifically proven that this is the most beautiful ride in the world, in the whole galaxy even. But you have to ride. I don't know anything new. You got to ride a stock new bike, like not a hybrid or whatever. It's just even a stock road bike or a stock mountain bike or a stock gravel bike, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I
would be like, no, sorry, I'm not doing it.
Can't do it. Can't do it. I got to change something.
Can't do it. I just don't enjoy the ride if it's not like customized to how I like it.
You come from an era, and we both come from eras where a nice bike meant you were picking a frame off the wall And then we were going over and like picking each individual part, how many spokes, anodized nipples, in some cases like, red nipples, alternating red nipple and a silver nipple. It was always the Rasta bikes. Remember
the Rasta bikes were real big.
Oh, the Rasta bikes were huge, and
Bontrager paint scheme.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I have an original Bontrager. So my mountain bike is still an original, Keith Bontrager bike. With Grove Innovation cranks.
Oh, yes. So that's some trick shit right there.
Yeah, dude. It was like
you just got some street cred.
I worked
from Ronnie Romance right there.
I worked at a very cool bike shop in Chicago. So we were a Bridgestone shop here in Chicago. So
classic. I would ride a stock Bridgestone because those things were spec'd like they were. Of course, that was a Grant Peterson spec, but the way that I picked up like an NB Zip, I think, I want to say like 10 years ago for like nothing, like $250 for a complete
Zip,
bike.
And
it had the full, like those Mavic cranks, like the Suntour XC Pro, everything. I think, and then he mixed in like a Dura Ace headset, and like it was just like this spattering of like really weird Ritchie everywhere,
Post Ritchie everywhere. Yeah.
I mean everything. You think of what Ritchie made back then. He made everything, and it was all the best shit.
Yeah,
like, there's no company like that today. Like it's all garbage. It's just a matter of like. The parts were way better. They were way more like workable and customizable at home. Like you could be a home mechanic and have no problem working on your own bike.
Yeah.
You didn't need a torque wrench.
You didn't need a torque wrench. There was no like T whatever.
No.
Oh yeah, the fancy hex style. Oh god, that drives me nuts. Didn't Waskevich write a? We knew a pro back in the day, Chris Waskevich. Wasco, didn't he write a? I thought he wrote.
The Turin racing team was sponsored by Bridgestone. So and there was a Turin. So I worked at Turin, the Turin bike shop, and we had a pretty big team back in those days. They raced nationally, and they had kind of it was the Chicago team with a national profile. As you remember, like back in those days, like it was really coming out of the bike shops back then, or like a strong regional club like GS Mangione in New York. And,
right.
Yeah, there were certain teams that were region, powerhouses in a region, and that was true. That was one of the teams that. I remember one of the guys on the team. Remember that the Exo Zip. That they did that purple bike, and he raced. He raced crits with one of those. He customized it with drop bars, and decked it out. And his whole thing was to race this 26-inch wheeled, drop bar Exo Zip in crits.
It would have come with like mustache bars. Yeah,
exactly. Before they were cool, right?
Totally. I love that stuff, and you think of how cool, how the only thing that was wrong with mountain bikes in the 90s were the 50 millimeter wide handlebars, and straight that you take those away, you switch, you kind of reconfigure the cockpit a little bit, and you've got a modern day gravel bike, And so that's what I love the most about fixing up these old bikes right now is that you can get them for dirt cheap for the most part. And you put on these cool parts that we know that remind us of our childhoods. Yeah. And you could pick them up off eBay or at a bike co-op or a bike kitchen or something. You put them on this bike, and you put chop bars on a mountain bike with, fattish tires and head out there. And it's like a sweet bike again, you know? And you're like, these things are awesome. There's millions of them out there, waiting to be converted into something fun like that. It's just so much fun to imagine. Like you could stay up at night just dreaming of, well, what can I do to this frame? Like there's the possibility
hack it a little bit. Back in the day, it was so fun. Like you could, now that I think about it, I worked in a couple of shops too, and I wasn't really a wrench per se. I was like either delivering bikes or sweeping the floor, getting lunch, or one of those great things. But I do remember having like a bike, and after the shop closed, like the boss would let me work on it a little bit, and one of the wrenches would help me out with whatever I was trying to do. But I remember like kind of like seemingly almost any part could be kind of put on the bike and taken off and put back on and swapped. And I can't imagine doing that now with a lot of these mass produced bikes. It's like, no, you literally need this specific part. These other parts will not work. And then you go into this craziness of like these monocoque, like one piece handlebars with the stem built in, and you can't adjust it. And like, I don't know, it just seems insane. I get it that for racing, like maybe there's kind of a use for that. But, and I know you've talked too about how just this whole idea is like so many bikes out there are kind of made for racers, like people who spend a lot of time competing and riding on their bikes. And that's probably not 99% of us.
Not even.
Well, and I
being generous.
I equate it to like, those bikes that you're talking about, these carbon fiber bikes and proprietary spacers and seat posts and all this crap that really makes it, as someone who runs a bike shop, it sucks because somebody will come in with a bike and I can't fix it. Like I really want to help this guy out, but I can't fix it. I can't do it because I don't have the part to do this repair. And it's a stupid spacer. It's some oddball bolt that the seat post takes, and I can't sub anything out. And the bike industry is so screwed up, man. They put these people on these like Formula One. It's like a Formula One car. Like the car industry has really tit stuff, but it's on a racetrack, and only a racer gets it. And for some reason, the bike industry is like intent on putting guys in the suburbs on, because the only people that can afford these bikes are like lawyers and doctors, and they're like 50 years old. They can't even fit the bike. They can't get the handlebar high enough. Yeah, I've got to put an adjustable stem on their $9,000 carbon bike in order for them to
23 mil tires, 120 psi.
Oh yeah,
with all that with an adjustable stem.
Yeah, with an adjustable stem.
That's the color car.
Dude, I'm not kidding. Like I do that. Like I have to do it.
Gel saddle.
It's like that.
Put the gel saddle. cover.
Flat pedals.
Yeah, I mean all the time. And
that's it. It's a cheap way to buy a cheaper Porsche, really.
It is.
Pedal powered Porsche.
It is.
No, it is bizarre. It's like I guess there's so many different ways to dissect it. I don't know if it's like the Lance era is finally coming to roost. It's like you've got that's really. I guess it would have happened with Greg LeMond too in the 80s, but so much more of that Lance effect. As I'm sure being a shop guy, you remember. And it was just like all of a sudden, all these people coming in wanting road bikes.
Yeah,
we were just a mountain bike shop, and then all of a sudden it was like overnight. And we had like a cardboard cutout of Lance Armstrong in the front of our shop. Like, what the fuck is this?
You want a carbon what?
And then the industry switched over to start selling. I guess if you're selling somebody in like the 90s, if you're selling someone like a really high end mountain bike, like that's still a good bike. Like that's a useful bike that anybody of any weight or size or class can get rowdy on and have a great time.
A hard rock or rock hopper.
Yeah, anything.
Gary Fisher.
Anything would be sweet, but with the road bikes, of course, it's a very narrow window of what a bike like that is useful for. And for just an everyday bike for somebody who just wants the best that they can get, like they're going to ride that for a month, and their kids are going to make fun of them for their outfit, and their wife's probably going to do the same, and maybe a month later the wife or the partner leaves you, and
next thing you're a meme on the internet. Now Reddit's making fun of you,
and then and then you get into CrossFit or something. I don't know.
The next thing, and then you try to sell it for like $12,000 on Craigslist, and people are like, "What?"
Totally, with the gel saddle still on it.
Yeah. There's a few of them out there. Believe me, man. There's a few of them out there. The nice thing right now, the thing that is happening in the bike world is that the last couple of years, people have spent stuck at home watching YouTube, and people have gotten hip to you and other people out there, and the whole bike touring thing, as you probably know, is just blowing up all over the place. People I've had more people in the shop talking about touring and riding their bikes around the world than I have ever had in the last 30 years of working in a bike shop. And bike shops always had that dude who might have gone. If you worked at a good bike shop, there was a guy who went to go do Paris. There was one guy, right? He was a local legend, right? It was like that crazy dude, right? And everybody knew who he was. But now, I've got like regular people coming in talking about these things because they've educated themselves, they've watched these videos, they've learned what a nice bike is or what it should be, and a lot of young people that want to do it,
They know what's up.
Yeah, they do, or they want to try it, they want to do it. And so that's kind of refreshing, and it's allowing shops like mine, a smaller shop, to kind of pivot back to what we used to be. It's in being kind of what we're talking about. Where all right, man, you wanna listen to what I have to say, because I can tell you what you need to do if you're willing to listen to me. And these big stores, these like bike shops are becoming gigantic now. So for that person who wants to go see 100 bikes, he's going to go there, but these people who want to experience that thing that they're seeing on the internet, they're coming in, they're looking, it feels like they're interviewing shops, or they're looking for someone who speaks that language and what they're hearing online.
It's a cool concept to think that that's almost like a filter where you can have, I think the same way, where you have these much more mechanized, electrified bicycles. It's almost a different sport, where you have that, like, you need a shop that serves the need, because you think of, I'm sure all of the auto manufacturers are going to get into making e-bikes moving forward, and those are only going to be serviceable at the dealership, right? And so you have your shop and a lot of other shops that are opening up more with the acoustic model.
Yes.
And I think of how we're going to really make that one take off in this interview. I think about how that really almost like self-regulates and makes a market for, I think of like vinyl records, for instance.
Absolutely,
where you have we have access to all this digital music. It's so easy. That's e-bikes. That's electronic shifting. That's a bike that you have to break open with a hammer to see to like fix something inside of it. And so then there's always going to be a need for that like simplistic, that simplistic feeling of riding a bicycle and knowing how it works and seeing how everything works, and knowing that you put this bike together for yourself, and that you could rely on it, and if anything goes wrong out in the trail, that you're still going to be able to get home. And that's why we started riding bikes when we were kids. That was that simple feeling where that's actual freedom, whereas you're on an e-bike, you might as well be on a scooter, or it's just a totally different I'm sure it's great too, but it's just a different experience altogether.
If only we had Instagram accounts. A market
for this smaller stuff. If
only we had Instagram accounts when we were kids, Joe, we'd be like totally viral. Like,
I always say my Instagram would have been killer. Come on, man.
Killer, right? It would have been so good.
It would have been so good. It would have been so good.
And looking back, like my friends and I, we'd ride our BMX bikes, and most of them, I think, were just like American Spirit, Huffy Specials, whatever. And I think eventually I got like a Hutch, which was amazing.
That was kind of a real bike.
Yeah, that was huge. But we would just go off on Saturdays and ride our bikes to like Orland Park, which from where we lived was like pretty far. And we'd ride like on Harlem Avenue. These are just our local busy roads. That was like you shouldn't ride your bikes on, especially if you're a kid. And we would just be like a line of like 6 BMXers. BMXer wannabes, and we would just like go out and ride all day, and like we wouldn't eat, we wouldn't drink water, like we didn't even think about anything. We were just having so much fun, and we'd find like a little trail and go adventure. And
6 miles from your house when you're 10 years old feels like you've gone to a different land.
But it was all about that adventure. And I remember just getting home and just being like so wiped out, like just chug a glass of milk, have something to eat, and I would just like sleep for like 12 hours. My mom's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, I just rode to Orland Park. She's like, "What? Don't tell your father." Anyway, but just that was like so simple, and I think in some ways that's kind of what you do to this day, which is I think inspiring for a lot of people. Real quick, so I actually bought my friend this book called The Return of Analog, and it came out maybe 5-7 years ago, if I had to guess off the top of my head, but I gave it to a friend as a gift, and I'm pissed that he hasn't read it yet, because I'm like, I really want to read that. I kind of bought it for myself, but I got it for him. But it's just about this notion of like vinyl was a really good example. Like a lot of people going back and looking at this. I think it, for me, and it's probably different for everyone, but for me, it's like just having something real. Like I have vinyls. I love playing my vinyls. It's like the ritual. It's like I'm just going to take some time. It's like something I can touch. I still like to read actual books when I can. I do read ebooks and listen to audiobooks because it's more practical in some ways, but I still love to get a book. in my hand. And John Banville, the Irish writer, I recently listened to an interview with him, and he's like, a hardback novel is like the most erotic thing you could ever have. And I just love the way he talked about it that way. But just a lot of this stuff, I think it in some ways it is resonating with a lot of people, because I do see people going back to that. Joe, like the bikes you sell in your shop, like, are you selling more of like the kind of bikes we're talking about? Because I know you sell, for example, like Surly. Like, I don't know a ton about Surly, but obviously, they have kind of like a cachet almost, like people think of them in a certain way.
I'm guilty of it because I opened a shop. I mean, I've been there for 12 years, and I got caught up in that whole transition from the digital age from the analog to digital, and trying to deal with online places, and all the places that started selling stuff on via the internet, and the margins got really slim in the bike industry went really haywire when the internet came on, and at that point it was every man for himself. There were no rules. People were selling stuff at cost on eBay. I had kids guys that I worked with were stealing stuff from the bike shop and selling it, selling it on eBay. We'd find them selling stuff on eBay under the table. I mean, it was just things were just nuts. I mean,
that's how I got fired from that bike shop job, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes. See, you know exactly what I'm talking about, man.
That's something to be proud about.
Thanks for listening to the Bike Shop Society podcast featuring Ultra Romance. Make sure and tune in next week for part 2 of this incredible, stunning, thrilling interview. For Joe and Danny, and the entire Bike Shop Society podcast crew, this is Alexa. Now go for a ride. Goodbye.